Welcome to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tattooing Network.
You must unlearn what you have learned.
Your source for the latest Legion news, opinion, and analysis.
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
John Archiquette.
Will somebody get this big walking carpet out of my way?
Matt Turner.
I'm not afraid.
And Joshua Gray.
You will be.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Legion Outriders podcast. I'm Joshua Gray, joined by Matt Turner, and no John, because he's off cavorting.
Let me be the first to welcome you to this hive of scum and villainy, because, man, are you messing that up already.
I do my own thing. I march to the beat of my own drum.
And nobody likes to dance to that.
And nobody likes it. No.
But hey,
that's
we've got
okay.
guests on the show today filling in for John.
Well, see, we've actually figured out an exchange rate.
Okay.
One John equals a Nick and an LJ.
Wow, that is the worst trade deal in the history of ever.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Yeah.
So we're joined with John is off for work. He is skiing in Aspen, literally. That's what he's doing
filming
for work.
Wounded veterans.
Yeah, it's a thing for the VA, but he is literally skiing in Aspen, doing his best
life.
Chewbacca literally impersonation. So in place of John, with Adepticon now in the rearview mirror and high command, we have a quarter of the of the World Finals roster joining us today. Friends of the show, which I think we could pretty much just upgrade them now to like sometimes co-hosts.
Yeah.
But
sure. Guest stars.
LJ Pena and Nick Freeman. Hey guys, how's it going?
Pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing good.
Tippy tappy with a song in my heart.
Ooh.
Better now that you're here.
Ooh. Yeah, that
hey
makes me feel
LJ,
good.
were you there? We didn't. I don't know if we heard you there.
No, I am here reporting in.
So some of the stuff we're going to be talking about and touching on the show this week, like I just mentioned, Adepticon is wrapped. So
lots of
info
info
we'll
there
talk
to
about all your
get
guys'
into.
experiences there. We never really got a chance last week with all of the Clone Wars hysteria to
The clone what?
to talk about some of the stuff that got spoiled at Adepticon as far
the
as
pre-release
the tanks.
of the tanks and the X-34, yeah.
The terrestrial slippers. So we'll get into a little bit about that. And Nick, you just put up some stuff on the Legion page today about some efficiency stuff for some of the ground vehicles that we have right now, and we'll touch on that as well. So thanks, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Cool. Where do we get started?
Let's get started at this Adepticon thing. What do you say?
Oh boy, right to the chase then.
So Adepticon just wrapped up. I think I've just mentioned that a couple of times already. So guys, tell us about your experiences.
LJ, you start.
Yeah, LJ, go ahead.
I was going to graciously ask Nick if he wanted me to start, but his is more exciing, so I will.
Sort it out amongst yourselves.
Yeah, we had a game to sort that out, and I lost. No, it was, just speaking from the admin standpoint, everything leading up to the event went really, really well. It was definitely a lot less pressure than we had leading into LVO. So working with the Adepticon staff was really, really easy. And going into the weekend, I felt like we had a pretty good setup. We had the streaming figured out with 5th Trooper, and the boards were going to look good. We ran a terrain competition, and we actually got some pretty fantastic entries for that too. So we knew we were going to have some of the good stuff from LVO that everybody liked, be able to maybe rotate out some of the ones that people didn't like as much, and also replace them with stuff brought from the community. So we felt like that put us in a really good position terrain-wise. And, overall, things went really nicely, and that led us up to Friday.
So this wasn't your first rodeo. This is literally your second rodeo. What was your official position there?
I was just a dude. I was playing.
You were just some guy. Okay.
I was the guy from Blackwater sent to advise.
I get that joke
for atrocity.
That's why I made that joke. Thanks, Josh.
I know, that's great. I love it. That's great.
Yeah. So no official position.
With much less civilian casualties, hopefully.
Yeah, no official position. Just I wanted to make sure first and foremost in February that all of the tournament documents were ready to go, and so that was my big thing that I hit up. Was I made sure the paperwork and the social media was up to date and handed it over to Brendan, and he ran with it and got the job done.
Yeah, and I was going to say you did have a common link between LVO and the running of the Adepticon tournament. That was Brandon.
Yes, and that was obviously very critical because he was able to maintain some of the good things we had done and create consistency between the two events, which I don't think we've had yet at a major.
Well, fantastic.
Yeah. So Nick, how's Adepticon from your perspective?
Finally recovered. It was good. It was my first time going to Adepticon. It was kind of a smaller con that was focused almost entirely on gameplay. There was a small vendor hall, but the majority there was tournaments. And yeah, I have to say it was run really well. Brendan did a great job. The tables were all beautiful. And then I've got to give a shout out to the community again. Like, everybody brought their A game, but everybody was still really pleasant to be with.
Oh, that's great.
smiles and high fives all around. Like, it was just a great community. Yeah, this was another weekend of that. Oh yeah, sorry. This was another weekend of that same like community LVO feeling, and you could feel that things were a little bit tighter because you knew, the pressure's on. This is the last chance qualifier. This is high command. But at the same time, the judge calls that were being made were all just that really simple. How do we interact with this piece of terrain, or line of sight questions? Again, the community was absolutely stellar, and there was a point that I saw where a new player actually came up to a high command game, and the two people that were playing welcomed the person that was watching, and one of the players even took a moment to quickly explain what was going on, and this was in the middle of a high stakes high command game. So that was just that, I think the best moment that kind of sums it all up, and this was Nick and me, was there was a moment that you can see on stream at high command where Nick rolled a Rebel Trooper Z6 shot that I think netted like 5 hits, 4 of which were crits, something like that. And I turned around and I rolled 5 blocks, and the two of us just high-fived each other across the table. And even when him and I were having our great civil war at the end of high command there, it still was a weekend with friends, and that's always such a good feeling at the end of the day, because it makes you feel like you didn't waste your time, even if you didn't get the result that you wanted.
Apparently you guys did really well, because we've been getting anecdotal reports from people that were there for other games but stopped by to see what Legion was all about and coming away really impressed.
Yeah, I know. I talked with a handful of people there, and I got, I want to say at least 3 or 4 people to buy a core set that weekend, so that was pretty exciting.
Well, I think the story, as we kind of watched it from afar here in Vegas, that really impressed me when talking about the community. You had somebody show up to the tournament that had their army stolen on the way there, and still got to play.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. No, that, okay, so that's an interesting story, because I came into this from a slightly different perspective. So I run the Legion Discord now, and the news broke while I was in class, and class had just started. So I got to that situation about 50 minutes after we had learned about it. And by the time that I had learned about it, 50 minutes later, it was solved. He had another army already sent to him in post. That's how quickly you guys reacted to that situation and solved it. I couldn't even try to put my hat on and be like, hey, how can we help this guy out? No, somebody had already did it, and a Patreon had been started to get some money for him to try to get him an army post event too. And Hank, who was the guy in charge of Adepticon, actually very handsomely made sure Luke was taken care of after the weekend as well. And he got sent home with basically another army.
Wow. Look for the helpers, I guess.
I can't imagine like the 40K community doing anything like that ever.
Right. We need to deep strike some Blood Angels in to reinforce our friend.
They'd be like, oh, well, sorry. And what made it even worse for him is he was coming from Europe, right?
Australia.
Yeah.
Australia.
Yeah, he was in Iceland, I think, when that was the airport his army was stolen at. So Luke's been traveling all over the place for various things. And Adepticon was just like another stop on his world tour that he's been doing recently.
I was going to say, how is Iceland on the way from Australia to Chicago?
So it's cheap tickets. You got to keep an eye out for him.
Right?
He was a stowaway. He didn't want to talk about it.
So the community aspect aside, tell us a little bit about you guys both played in the Last Chance qualifier, even though, Nick, you didn't need to. You still played because it's good to get games in. Tell us about the armies you guys ran there, and LJ, I believe you had to qualify through that, didn't you?
I did. So I haven't been able to travel to any events, and in fact, the first event I was able to travel to was LVO, and there was no way I was going to play and run LVO. It just wasn't going to work.
You're just a little busy.
Yeah. So I went to LCQ going, yeah, this is my one and only shot. This is my Eminem moment. Don't mess it up. And so I knew that we had 11 spots to give away because there were 21 people that had showed up to Adepticon to play in High Command. So there were 11 spots to give away. And if any of the people that had already qualified made it into the top 11, then that meant it would bump down a spot. So anywhere from the top 11 to, I think it was 19 would make it in because there were 8 pre-qualifieds playing. And I had a really good first 2 games. I think I kind of lucked out, and I played some newer players. I played an ATST person the first game, and we had a very friendly, but it was a pretty one-sided game. I think his Imperial officer jumped in the ATST at the end of the game and ran for it. that was a joke between the two of us. And then in my second game, I actually played the guy that had the bye. And so it was his first game of the day, and that was also it was a very educational Vader game for him. There were a lot of little interactions that we talked through. I talked to him about killing his Electrostaff off first because I didn't have any Pierce melee models, and it's just like little legionisms that separate people into different categories. And he was very appreciative of it. And it wasn't like I was trying to go into teacher mode, but that's what it felt like I was doing. And I'm glad he didn't take it the wrong way, because I wasn't trying to be like, you're an idiot, you don't know how to play your own army. It was just like the little things that I do because I play a ton of teaching games with people. And so they were both very friendly, very positive games. And then I got to my game 3, which was against Chris Cook, who actually ended up going 4-0 and taking best overall, I believe it was. And that was so. Both my losses this weekend came from playing Sabotage as red player. I just got to stop doing that. I keep putting myself in that scenario, and it's not a good scenario. Don't do it. But we played a very back and forth Vaporator game that was very high quality. And, the two of us were both like, man, I don't want to make the moves I'm making because this feels like kind of a D-bag move, but we want a high command spot. So, it's just, we were playing that tight-knit attrition game, and it was one activation. And I think he beat me by like 30 points. So it was very close.
Nail biter there.
Yeah.
So what was your list there?
I played a pretty standard Veers Boba. My flair was I had 2 fully loaded snow troopers. So they had an Imperial officer, flame trooper, grenades, and recon intel. And I tell people I win or lose depending on how well I played my snows. And that was very, very true. The games that I wasn't able to leverage them were my losses, and the games that I did were my wins. And so with the 2 fully loaded snows and Boba, I've got a pretty effective, aggressive arm. And then there's 4 DLTs and 2 snipers and Veers, and those kind of form the defensive arm of the army. And Chris was playing a pretty standard Luke Leia twins list. And we just, we were just trading little activations here and there, and never quite got his Luke to commit. And so he was able to, I think, stay ahead on points. So I lost that one, and I was rooting for him to win his final game because that would affect my strength of schedule. There were going to be 8 3-1 players and 4 2-1 players. Or sorry, 4 4-0 players. I think it was, or was it only 2 4-0s, Nick?
It was 4.
Okay, it was 4. So I knew that not all the 3-1s were going to make it in. Moral of the story. And so I told him, like, hey, you got to win that last game if I have a chance, because at the time my strength of schedule was not looking too great because of my previous two opponents. And I ended up playing my last game and won that one pretty decently. And then I was just watching the final game, which was Chris's game. And it came down to like the second to last die roll, and he won. And I was in 15th place. And so I was looking at the boards going like, come on, Chris, you got to do it. You got to do it. and he did. And I hugged him after his game was done. Because I went from 15th place to 13th place.
Oh, wow.
And there were two people, Nick and another person who I'm not remembering, that already had a spot. So it went from 11 to 13th place. So
you just barely snuck it in there.
You lucky SOB.
Barely snuck it in there, and I qualified in the LCQ, just barely.
All right, Nick. What were you were playing? You were already guaranteed a spot in High Command, so you played and you kind of pressure was off. You could have done whatever you want. What kind of list did you take in there, and how did you play
was it?
So, how janky did you get?
So I got the very first High Command invite, and so I'd spent the rest of the year screwing around playing jank. So this actually was kind of a practice for me. Not only had I never played Rebels in an event before, but I hadn't been playing serious lists for a long time. So I used the LCQ as like a kind of a brush-up tournament. And it went okay. I ended up going 4-0. All four of those...
that's okay.
All four of those were tablings or concessions.
So what ended up being your list that was
the
not
list was,
jank?
It was Han, Leia, and Chewie.
Oh, yeah. 4
Rebel troopers with Rebel Trooper and Z6. And then 3 Commando strike teams with Sniper, Hunter, and Recon Intel. So the list was very upgrade heavy, and came out to 10 activations.
And there's a strategy with that, though. I mean, it from the way you were explaining it, it's basically a character hunter list.
Right. So the way I was running it is I kill their characters first, then they've got no courage bubble and no command hand, and then basically I'm free to do whatever I want at that point.
Oh, interesting.
So yeah, I mean, I can see if how quickly were you getting commanders off the table?
There were a couple of games it was turn 1. And then I think...
Well, that'll set you back.
Right?
I think every other game, the latest I killed a commander was probably turn 3.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty good, man.
What was your commander kill tally for the weekend? How many Veers, how many Leias?
Ooh, I didn't keep track. It was a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, looking at the list afterwards, I immediately went, how can I make an Imperial list like this? Because this sounds like a fun way to play. I would very much like to. I'm going to try some. I got a game lined up
catapult,
for.
I think.
What's that?
Vader with a catapult.
Right? Yeah. I've got a game lined up for Sunday, just kind of a casual game here at the store. So I'm going to try a Veers Boba sniper hunter list like that and see how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it.
Yeah, we'll see. It
nice.
should be fun. So cool. So you guys rolled into Saturday, right? Saturday was High Command.
Yes.
Yeah. So you rolled into Saturday High Command. There were how many folks were there?
32.
Yep.
Yeah.
32. So 32 enter, 8 leave. Nick, tell us a little bit about how your Saturday went.
So the day kind of blurs together. Together we played 24 hours of Legion over the weekend.
Wow.
So it's at one point games roll into each other, but it was another. I ended up getting only 2 tabling or concessions this on Saturday, and 2 of them ended up going to final round. We ended up finishing the game, and I think I had the hardest game I've ever played against Screwtape. That game, don't play Breakthrough against Boba Fett on a table with no line of sight on it. That's miserable.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So he spent that whole game trying to find a way to hide Boba and then jump him into my deployment zone last turn. And I spent the whole game trying to figure out how to get something into his deployment zone. At the end, I finally figured out a way to get Han and Chewie at the last minute, and Han and Chewie is more than one Boba, so I ended up winning that game.
Nice. Nice. And it's worth mentioning, like, Screwtape is the guy that put together the Legion or the Legion dice odds Excel spreadsheet. So he's a very number cruncher kind of guy too.
Oh,
right?
he's very sharp. Yeah, that was a rough game.
Yeah. So that's kind of like
it was a mirror episode.
Yeah.
For,
it's
Nick,
unopposable force and immovable object colliding.
Yep.
And then your last game was a pushover, I hear.
Yeah, that wasn't too bad.
Nice.
No, all of my games Saturday were pretty rough. I was lucky to get 4-0. It easily could have gone the other way.
Well, congrats to both of you. What a really strong showing.
Yeah.
It sounds like a great time.
Yeah. So, LJ, how was your Saturday?
So, am I allowed to curse on Outriders?
We're PG-13, so we get like 1.
All right. My first game was bullshit.
That one will accept.
You might have to have an R2.
So, give me a beep or something, because I felt so bad about how that game ended, and I should not have won that game. There's in any simulator you imagine, I would have mathematically lost that game and somehow won it. So here's the situation.
Oh, one of those.
You've seen the end of The Last Jedi, where Kylo tells the entire group of vehicles to fire every gun at that man. So
very memorable. Yes.
Or once again, I'm playing Vaporators, which again I told you I shouldn't do. As red player, so I've got to go into Luke Cook, who is a extremely competent Imperial player. He took second place at LCQ the day before, and I've played him online a couple times to practice. And I was like, great, I have drawn my loss in the first round, and I can't mess this up for the rest of the day. And we played our first turn, made conservative moves, and then I withheld Boba until the last move, hopped him out, and was able to kill a couple of his snowtroopers that were in the open. And so I was like, oh, cool. I'm going to then whipcord, try to kill the other 3, jump behind cover, and now he's got to come to me. Well, his Boba also played whipcord, double moved to me, and whipcorded me. And then we were both kind of sitting there in the open looking at each other. So my Boba whipcorded his Boba, and both of us forgot that you can still make a speed 1 move when Boba is whipcorded because he's speed 3. So my Boba sat there and took 10 activations worth of fire. So he went from 2 suppression to immobilized tokens to 12 suppression to immobilized tokens, and only took 4 wounds.
Wow.
After
that's
a literal
right there.
army's worth of fire, he took I sacrificed so many goats the morning of High Command, it actually worked.
Jeez. And that's how Boba got the dent in his helmet.
And
right?
my Boba saves were just nigh unbelievable, and he took an entire army's worth of fire and turned...
Well, I know who played Imperial Discipline next turn.
So what happened was, at the beginning of turn 2, when he whipcorded me, I literally put my hand across the table and shook his hand. I was like, you've probably got this. I'm going to keep playing because I paid to be here, but you probably got this. Then Boba took all that fire, and I made 1 change from my last chance qualifier list to my Adepticon high command list. And that was getting rid of coordinated fire and adding in Imperial Discipline. So turn 3, I played Imperial Discipline, cleared all 12 suppression off Boba, and Boba got out of there.
Nice.
Holy
That's awesome. Man, and that's
how pissed was he?
You know, he wasn't. I think he was just mad at himself for not seeing it coming. He made a joke right before we drew cards that you probably got Imperial Discipline, and then I winked at him as we threw the cards down, and he was like, "Fuck!" And Luke, I mean,
I don't think he finished that one. He didn't finish that one, Matt.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
And like Luke is just—he's so good. He's so competent. You know, he was very, very focused for the rest of the game. There was actually another game-defining moment there at the end where I had 2 single unit leaders that were booking it as his forces were coming around the corner to try to get the point advantage. And I had one of them save 2 DLT shots that should have killed him, and another one that cleared 2 suppression and was able to run away, because we were also playing hostile environment. And so I had 2 other moments that I got lucky and passed and was able to get my forces out of dodge, and I barely took I think I took that one by like 20 points or maybe 30 points as well. Very, very similar game to his dad.
Yeah.
Yep.
LJ has, I think, typified it's better to be lucky
Yes.
than
Absolutely.
for that weekend. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
that was it was just utter insanity, and in any other game he would have won that one. And then turn 2, I ended up playing Garnana on stream, who's a Discord member that I love and I really don't get to play, so we had a great game on stream. I was able to kind of take advantage of the positioning mistake he made and win that one fairly solidly. And then I played 3 against Matt Dunn, who I'd also never played or met before, and I actually had a great boba move. I was able to whipcord a full commando squad, and my flames came around and annihilated them, so that was pretty cool.
Nice.
How was his army?
Matt Dunn? So his army in person is really cool to look at. He's got a lot of fun conversions, and he's got a generic rebel officer that looks like him.
That's great.
He was playing a super elite 9-act Rebels list that had Han, Leia, Chewie, and 2 fully kitted out double commando squads.
Damn,
nice.
Because he won Best Painted, right?
Yes,
he did.
Yeah, so he was a great opponent. We were both teachers too, so we were enjoying talking to each other that game. And then my last game was against Nick, which again totally put myself in a bad position by forcing Vaporators. I could have avoided that, and I didn't.
By playing Nick,
I think you had a really good play though. He threw Boba up early against one of my snipers, and if he had killed one sniper unit and ran away, that probably was game.
Yeah, and that was my whole plan. My whole plan was to make another bold Boba move and try to capitalize on that and get out of dodge. But my luck had been used up in the first game with Boba. And so he definitely did not have the same luck. And I don't know, I had a lot of Boba and sniper shots that I just straight out blanked on. So they were not having a good game 4. They were tired. That was the 8th game of Legion by that point that weekend with 2 more to go. So yeah, my dice were done. And that was my high command. But, because I had done well during the day and I, lost to a 4-0 opponent, I ended up taking, I was 3rd or 4th overall. I think it was 4th. I think it was 4th overall. And because the top players above me were all Rebel, I took Best Imperial. Yeah.
Nice. So, by the time you guys got to that last table, by virtue of you both being 3-0, weren't you both guaranteed to have already made it, essentially?
Yeah, whoever lost that game couldn't drop below 4th, I believe.
Okay, so pressure's kind of off, and you're just kind of playing for fun there.
Basically,
more or less, yeah.
I think we were both taking it seriously just because we were on camera, and the sad part was neither of us wanted to play each other because we've literally played that scenario like 3 or 4 times against each other.
Sounds like a good place to have the old X-Wing intentional draw where you just kind of like, I don't want to play this game. We'll take a tie.
Let's go get some lunch.
Let's go eat. And then did you guys play? You guys played Sunday too. There was a team event, right?
I sat it out, but LJ and Ed Martinez played together.
Yeah, I should not have played that day. I'm glad I did. But I started feeling sick late Saturday night by the time I was going to bed. And then I was sick all day Sunday, and I just trudged through it. And I'm still, every time I mute myself, I'm coughing off voice here because I've just been sick for the last like 3 or 4 days. I'm so happy I had Monday off school because I got a chance. I slept for like 14 hours on Monday. I was just super sick. And but we
screw everybody else on your airplane though.
Screw those guys. But I really wanted to play doubles. I was like, I'm here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to play. And I wanted to get some games in with Ed. And we were supposed to play 3 games, but we ended up playing 2 because they had to close the hall down early. And we were 3rd place overall and actually ended up taking highest Imperial. And so I was able to get 3 awards in total after the weekend because of that placement. So it was cool.
Were you able to fit all of that bling in your suitcase on the way home, or did you have to like UPS some stuff on your way out the door?
I was able to fit everything in my bag. I did get searched because of them. They did take them out and look at them and all that. And actually, there's a great picture of me and Nick because we both actually won 3 awards apiece. Where somebody commented and said, "You guys are the Michael Phelpses of Legion." And I'm thinking to myself now, man, I'm just a dude disguised as a dude playing another dude. This is Legion at that top level is such an any given day sport. It's like it's like college basketball. It's like you're playing knockout games. You're fighting each other on technicalities at that point. Any of these guys that made it to the top 8 and that top 32 could have been represented. And Worlds is going to be such an event, and anybody on the roster can take it because the skill levels there are going to be super high, and everybody's this is still year 1. Nobody's quite established in that dynasty sense. We're gonna reach the end of a year's worth of playing this game, and I think people are still going to be learning things along the way. And I think you're gonna see a new meta at Worlds, even compared to Adepticon. It's going to be a different meta, I think.
Oh, I completely agree.
And I think it's worth noting. Like, I was looking at all of the names that made it to Worlds, and it's basically a who's who of Invader League. How much do you think that Invader League kind of helps people get those games and kind of sharpens that edge to be able to play on that high-level competitive scene?
There's one distinct advantage that I think playing on TTS gets you, and it's that you're going to play metas from all over the world. And so, like, I was able to play against scenarios that I might have not seen just playing at my local stores or my local region. And actually, I believe the Invader League Season 3 meta that people just started playing this week is the exact same meta that's going to be at Worlds, because Worlds should have Sabine, Bosk, and the tanks. And that's the meta that we're going to have at Worlds, because it's at the end of June, probably just after Tauntauns and Rebel Vets come out.
I mean, Worlds is basically now Invader League Live with special guest Nick
Correct.
Freeman. That's basically what this has turned into now. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, any last thoughts on Adepticon, High Command, Last Chance Qualifier? Matt's got a thought.
Yeah,
go, Matt.
I'm calling dibs for next year. I'm going to be Nick's handicap in the doubles event. Let's see how well you can do with this albatross hanging off your neck.
It'll be like before, like, the Masters when they played the Pro-Am. It's like Tiger Woods paired up with like the local guy that runs the car dealership, and it's like they have to go play a tournament. That's basically what that's going to be. It's going to be the Masters Pro-Am.
I gotta say, I did feel really bad because there were definitely points in that doubles tournament where Ed was just like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "Oh, we should probably double move that squad," and then he did it for me. So I'm just sitting there in my chair, like probably about to, like, I don't know, pass on to heaven or whatever, my next point in this life.
No, the lieutenant training kicked in and you started issuing orders.
It was like I was just like dying over there, and it's like, moving stuff for me. So, it might be like one of those things where you're just in the background, Nick pulling the strings for Matt.
Yeah. Sounds good to me. Let's do it.
Yeah. Match. Go
I
ahead,
want to point out again, like, how hard 24 hours of games in a row is. it was 2 12-hour days back to back, and like in our last game, me against LJ, like there were points where I was calling him on things that he was totally fine on because my brain just stopped working. And you know, like after this many high-level games, like you do start to break down.
Oh no, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
mush.
It's such a high level of thinking that it's just you're so mentally exhausted.
Actually,
by the end of it.
I think the moment, and apart from our high five, that really emulated that feeling, and particularly the most was we did dinner at where'd we go, Nick? Do you remember?
It was a pizza place. I forget the name.
Yeah, and so we were having we were having deep dish pizza, and
as one does in Chicago.
And I was just sitting there looking at the table in front of me, and I was in my mind subconsciously measuring with a 2-speed the distance from the end of the table to my beer. Like I was seriously doing movement and range measurements, just like I caught myself doing it like on the table in front of me, just imagining like, would a 3-speed reach where I need to go here? Could I get a rocket off after this move?
Does the beer provide heavy cover
and
or
I
light cover?
I just like turned to Emily and I was like, can you just like hit me or something? Because this is
I need a hard
what am
reboot
I
on my
doing
brain
here right now.
And she was all too willing at that point.
Yeah, so that was it's taxing. I'm glad Worlds is only 3 games, or it's supposed to be anyway.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, well, there's only 8 people in attendance, so 3 games should be all you need to kind of whittle that down to 1 undefeated, right? Yeah. So, man, are they going to have they talked about how they're going to stream that? Are they going to have the 5th Trooper guys out again? Because they did a phenomenal job.
They haven't said anything official, but I do know that FFG just built their own in-house streaming studio, which is how we got the Luke and Alex game.
Right.
So,
okay. That makes sense.
So they haven't said, but I have a feeling they will do an official stream.
Yeah, I'll be perfectly honest. Part of
Very
the reason why I made sure to get the 5th Trooper streaming at Adepticon was so we could show them, hey, we can do this. We can make it look good. Why not put it on our shoulders instead? So we'll see.
Sure.
Okay.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, that's
Adepticon,
that's it, man. That's
we'll have
Adepticon.
to talk to Brendan here soon too.
Yeah, we were gonna have him on, but then he went and made his own podcast. So
that's true. He's hosting himself.
He's
right
on his
now.
own now. Just kidding. We love Brendan. He's a great guy and a great resource for the community. So, all right, guys. Well, we're gonna take a break real quick, and then when we come back, we're going to talk tanks and
You're welcome.
terrestrial slippers and efficiencies. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network, recorded on location at Power 9 Games. Whether you're looking for the latest releases from Legion, X-Wing, 40K, Magic, or any of our other extensive inventory of board and card games, head to power9games.com and use coupon code OUTRIDER10 to get 10% off your order. Plus, shipping is free on orders over $100. Now, back to the Outriders.
And welcome back to the Legion Outriders podcast, coming from you live from Power 9 Games in the hive of scum and villainy, Las Vegas, Nevada. Is that better, Matt?
No, it wasn't.
Is that
this
better?
is the second part. You're supposed to say, welcome back, Outriders. We're here with Luke and...
We're not here with Luke.
No,
we're here
not.
with
We're
LJ,
here with Nick
Pena,
and
Nick Freeman, who are nice enough to join us for the entire
maybe
show.
the L in LJ stands for Luke.
No, it doesn't.
Luke's Jawas.
I know
what
exactly
stands
what
for.
it stands for, but, that's not important right now.
Little Jawas, that's what it stands for.
Little Jawas. Oh, my God.
Wow. You insulted me by calling me a rebel. Then you call me Little Jawas instead of my proper name, which is Lyndon B. Johnson. Thank you very much.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That was the one that liked to put on the ladies' clothes, right?
Right.
Okay, cool.
All right, so...
Legion Jawas?
Legion Jawas?
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's go on.
Legion Jesus?
Oh,
there you go.
Definitely.
Yeah, Legion Genius Pena. There you
Wow.
go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
There
not
you go.
presumptuous
Anyways,
at all.
So one of the advantages of folks being able to go out to Adepticon is FFG put on sale early the X-34 and the Occupier tank units.
Cool.
What is this? What
I
you're
actually
making hand
wanted
signals
to do
at me.
one thing real quick before we get into this.
Okay.
Are either of you guys gonna get into droids and Republic, or are you staying steady with what you're doing?
Roger,
I'm
Roger.
playing all four.
Playing all four. Wow.
I give a solid Roger if you didn't catch that.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just had to know.
I'm staying.
I knew that I was droids before droids came out, but then droids came out, and I was so gonna play droids.
I've got to say, I saw the new sculpts at Adepticon, and that hard plastic on the droids is amazing. It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
I want to be clones, but those droids look so good.
Well, I'm just going to say soldiering with the Empire. You guys can all go play with the new shinies. That's fine.
Yeah.
Have fun with that.
Okay, so
anyways,
tanks out X-34.
Yeah.
Well, they got released at Adepticon.
They got released at Adepticon, and that meant that we got to see the
preview articles.
Well, not the preview articles, but everything that we hadn't seen yet had been spoiled. For each of them, that was just basically the hard points that go on to basically the driver weapons, because we'd already seen Splimo and we've already seen all the drivers and everything else. So we got to see the new weapons, which is pretty cool. So for the tank, this is going to come as a big surprise. It's got a DLT 19.
An 18-point DLT 19.
An 18-point DLT. And it's a DLT.
Yep.
So you pretty
Nothing
much
wrong
know
with
what
that.
you're getting there. Nick, give us analysis on the DLT 19 on the tank.
It's good.
Yeah. That's about it. That's all you need.
Then we have the RT-97C Rifle Pintle.
So 14 points, 1 red, 3 white, range 1 to 4. But it doesn't come with any impact or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm not really sure what to make of this. It seems okay, but it's got a lot of potential.
I'm a little confused on this one too. So the average damage coming out of it is exactly the same as the DLT. So you have maybe a little more variance, but essentially it's just another DLT.
Okay.
But you're losing impact, though. Also.
But you're losing impact.
But
and it's 4 points cheaper, so is 4 points worth impact to you?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm super excited to take the Occupier with the RT Pintle and the Hammers pilot and just sit back at range 4 and throw just a ton of dice at people. Aim, range 4, the main gun, and the Pintle. I think that's got to be a decent weapon pool.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
I think the Pintle pairs a lot better with the Imperial Hammers pilot, just because you get a little bit more oomph out of it with having that surge to hit.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Yeah.
So X-34.
So the X-34, boy, you get 18 points and 14 points for the tank options. Not quite so economical here with the weapons that you get for the X-34. And it's worth noting that this is already a vehicle that doesn't come natively with really much weaponry to begin with. Unlike where the tank has 2 weapons that come with it natively, almost everything on this vehicle you've got to plug into it, unless you're just happy tooling this thing around with 2 white dice.
Basically rolling down the window and leaning outside to pop somebody.
So the 2 weapons that you get here, the cheapest option that you have is the 34-point Mark II medium blaster, range 1 to 3, 4 black dice.
Fixed front.
Fixed front.
Or whatever.
That's it, pretty much.
Yeah.
What do you think, guys?
I think it's pretty solid. I think that's my favorite hardpoint out of the 2.
Yeah, and you're on a surge to hit platform, so you're going to be getting a lot of hits out of that thing, I think.
That's fair to say, yeah.
Sure. The other weapon that we have here available to us now is the M45 Ion Blaster, which looks... Is this basically the weapon that that Bistion has in the Pathfinder's expansion?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Because it's Impact 1, Ion 1, 1 black, 4 white, exhaustible. So I think that's essentially the same gun, isn't it? Yeah. 38 points fixed front. Oof. That's expensive, man. That's expensive for a gun that you've got to untap to fire again.
I think having the compulsory move and being on a platform that can pivot for free before it moves helps out a lot. But yeah, it's a little pricey.
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible platform to be on. It definitely works a little bit better than like Pathfinders because sometimes it can be really redundant to refresh on them. I mean, I think my favorite hardpoint is still Splemo, though.
Good man.
Now, is that just because what he brings to the fight, or just because it's Splemo?
He is a man of action.
Yeah, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B.
Sure thing.
Him and Pruneface get together and barbecue on the weekends. It's always a good time.
So even though these weren't eligible to be played at Last Chance Qualifier or High Command, they were able to be put on the table for the doubles event, right?
Yes.
So did you guys get any games in with these? I know, Nick, you said you didn't play. Or did you get the chance to at least see how they played on the table?
So here's the thing. Adepticon is primarily a GW event, and so they have a convention-wide everything has to be painted rule. So,
oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So that being said, people did get the speeder, paint it overnight, and play it Sunday. Same thing with the tank.
There was 3 tanks, a speeder, and a squad of death troopers, I think, in combined
That sounds
assault.
right. That sounds right.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, because Krennic was able to be played. Krennic and DTs.
Yeah, they allowed them in combined assault because it wasn't a premier event, and so there were people that were able to to put the work in to at least get it to a respectable standard. And one of the list actually played 2 tanks in their list, so 2 of those vehicles were on the same board. And then I actually watched another game that I think had a total of like 4 ATRTs, an air speeder, and the new X-34 speeder, all on the same board.
Yeah. All on the same team. No, same board. Yeah.
It was more
So they
armor
basically
than I've ever
went vehicle
seen.
skew the entire way.
Yeah,
Love it.
that was an armor
That's amazing.
bonanza. That was fantastic.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, those are our next slated releases, right? They should be out here relatively
I
soon.
haven't looked at the.
I think somebody
page.
said that the FFG website is updated to either on the boat, or there's some update that they're kind of on the way. I don't think they're shipping now yet.
Yeah, I believe they're end of this month, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, if they follow the same pattern, it should be end of this month. But it's it'll be in April. It'll be in the near future.
Yeah.
No official release date on the distribution site, but yeah, hopefully it should be soon.
I'm really looking forward to playing the tank. Yeah.
That's weird.
It looks like it's a lot of fun.
It's gonna be a lot of purple.
Probably not as much as you think, but I'm just looking forward to it. It's it's got some tricks to it, and some of the ATSTs are nice, but they're expensive, and just some of the stuff you can do with the tank, I'm just really, really looking forward to.
Yeah.
So, Nick, would you play the X-34?
I am looking at building one of them, but I'm not using either of the hard points. I'm just using the co-pilots, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So that one, I don't have it in front of me. I want to say it comes out to about 125 points. And that's just with the rifle. So the driver with the pistol, the co-pilot with the rifle, and then the rocket launcher.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that rocket launcher is actually kind of one of the MVPs of that vehicle because it's a non-refresh rocket launcher.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't exhaust.
Isn't that
just keep
all we
potting
wanted?
it out.
Yeah, that's a great.
Yes.
That's a great
They're
one.
all 360.
Yeah, that's the other big benefit too, is it's not fixed front.
Oh, yeah, good call.
You could skirmish really well with the X34 if you loaded it out like that. I do like that a lot.
So to let you in on the secret, the way I want to play it is you displace one unit, then you fire at 3 different ones, and essentially you're handing out force suppression around with the 120-point model.
Wow.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
That's pretty good. No, and it's worth mentioning that the hardpoint weapons on the Occupier tank are also 360 weapons, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, because they're all pintle mounted.
So with that weak point sides, having the ability to at least return fire to the side and to the rear is rather helpful.
We're gonna have a Fury moment,
Probably, yeah. You got the one guy sitting up top up there, hammering away with his mounted weapon. So yeah, awesome. All right, guys. So now, Nick, you posted some pictures up on the old Facey page today, the Legion group. You've been working on a project that's basically a graphical representation of all of the efficiencies of all of the units that we have in the game thus far.
Yeah, so it's still the same system I was using before, but now I've broken it down graphically and made it a little more granular in terms of the information I'm giving.
It reminds me of the old collectible X-Men cards in the 90s with their fighting and spirit and strength and all those stats. I love it.
You got the little red thing on the Transformers that you put over the card on the back, and it kind of revealed everything that they could do. Yeah. But so today you posted up basically the efficiency charts for the ATST and the T-47.
Yes.
The ATST doesn't appear that bad, but wow, that snowspeeder, it's just flaming hot garbage.
So I don't think either one of them's great. But the ATST is definitely better than the speeder at this point.
So we see some gray and some blue on here. For the folks that maybe are just looking at this and don't understand what it all means, kind of run us through what the gray means and what the blue means.
Okay, so the gray on the chart is what you would expect to get from the same amount of points of core troopers. And the blue is where the unit we're talking about is.
Okay, so for the ATST and the T-47, you're comparing that essentially against, 3 core units?
Essentially, yes.
Okay, so that's not compared to 1, which is important to note, because all of the other graphs are pretty much for the efficiencies. You're looking at 1 to 2 core trooper units. So. Man, that T-47 is really disappointing looking.
Yeah. So I found on both of them, their damage output is about 30% of what you would get from the same amount of rebel troopers, or not rebel troopers, core troopers. Or essentially you're getting 1 unit's worth of damage when you're paying 3 times the amount for it.
That's not good.
It's not good.
Now, does this take into some of the new pilots and stuff that are in the game?
Yeah,
that are going to be coming out with the.
Yeah, each chart goes through and looks at the efficiency with different upgrade options. So I think the ATST that I posted on Facebook today was a full Weiss ATST, which I think is still the most efficient in terms of damage output.
Okay.
And then the Hammer's pilot and the first sergeant, they come out about the same. So I think they do help. It looks like the ATST needs a pilot. It doesn't matter which one; all 3 of them are viable.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just not as efficient as taking the same amount of points of troopers.
And then the T-47 is it looks like there's one thing there that it does really well and is pretty much not good at anything else.
Right. Also, I want to point out that I don't think it needs to be 100% efficient. I think if the ATSC, for example, was 80% as efficient as the same amount of points of troopers, it would get tons of play. Not everything has to be 1-to-1 on everything, but I think at 30%, it's just it's pretty bad.
So we're already looking at getting some fixes through the pilots that are coming out with the new vehicles, but really, what's the fix? I mean, how do we make these competitive then, in your estimation?
So the two easiest ways to do it is either a damage increase or a points reduction. And I think, short of giving them new hardpoint options, I think the only way to do it would be through an errata.
And I mean, Alex was talking about that at the. He touched on that at the. At the panel
possibility
last
of the
week.
app, or
well, it was kind of an add-on because somebody asked about the app, and he mentioned we'd also like to do a points rebalance. And it sounded, listening on the stream, that he was interested in doing that sooner rather than later.
Oh, man, that would be fantastic.
I mean, yeah, these are two units that really could use that. If you're doing a points rebalance, Nick, where do you think that each of these units should sit, in your opinion?
I haven't done the actual calculation, but my gut feeling is the speeder should be about 140, and the ATS should probably be 160, 170-ish.
Okay, so it puts it right where the tank is, too. So, and that kind of opens up an interesting space for the game, just because you've got two armored, if you're Imperial, you've got two armored vehicles that are right about the same starting price point, but they bring two totally different things to the table, as far as being able to transport troops, or a much bigger beat stick with 4 weapons and Weiss.
Different, weapon platform options.
Right.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah, there you go. That's efficiency, folks.
That's great knowledge.
Yay. Hi, LJ. How you doing?
This just in. The T-47 is garbage. Reporting back to you from Windows.
Wow. Yeah,
I need some sources on that, buddy.
Yeah, Nick. I mean, in all honesty, good on you. You're doing yeoman's work here. I don't think we needed these graphs for the T-47. I mean, it's great to see it graphically, but
I would have just liked it if it turned out to be like a mushroom cloud, graphically.
If you turn it to one side, it's kind of like a pile of duty.
Poodoo.
Yeah.
Cool. What else we got to talk about? We got brackets for this week.
I think we're.
I would love to hear them weigh on the bracket choices.
Yeah, I know. I don't think we've done any work on that.
Oh. Well, this segment's going to be cut from the podcast.
Yes, this segment is going to be cut on the podcast.
No, good deal.
No, we've been, we put up the Imperial March Madness stuff, and John's the basketball guy, so he's out of town, and we've kind of lost the ball on this one. So we apologize to all of you, our faithful listeners.
We'll pick it up again next week.
Yeah, when John gets back, we'll go through all of it because Final Four's this weekend, and then the championship match is on Monday. So March Madness will be over by the time we record next. So
well, we're doing it next Tuesday. Remember?
Are we recording next Tuesday?
Oh, no. I thought that's why you brought me in for your March Madness analysis.
Yeah. See,
did
LJ,
we?
Hey,
perfect.
Well, LJ, did you do an Imperial March Madness bracket?
I have a bracket in the top 200,000. Let me tell you.
Wow. High numbers.
No,
indeed.
I actually hadn't. I had kind of mentally filled one out, but not physically filled one out. So I'm familiar with what you guys went with, and I actually did listen to the last episode, so I have an idea of who moved on. And I think we had a private conversation about how criminally underseeded the snowtroopers were.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're your pet unit. They're your favorite there. Yeah, I think everybody pretty much mentally filled the bracket out because I think we got three listeners that I think the Venn diagram of Legion players and basketball fans does not touch very much.
That's enough.
I just don't.
I know that people in general like making brackets. I actually had a couple guys that asked if for the single elimination of the Invader League, if we could fill that out and give it to the public and have them fill out a bracket.
Cool. Yeah.
And maybe even give an actual physical prize for whoever has the best Invader League bracket. So we might actually do that.
Now that would be fun.
We've done that for other games.
I would.
Yeah, because that's going to be a 32-person tournament, so that's going to be a good showing.
Now, you guys don't seed that, though, do you? It's all just random poll?
You actually get seeded depending on your overall win-loss. So there is a slight favoritism if you had a better record than somebody else.
So you could come through as an 8 seed and upset a 1
totally
first round.
Yep.
Dude.
That could be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Do it. Please. That'd be awesome.
Well, we're at about time for this.
Yeah, we
weekend.
are. I understand we got some Patreon stuff,
Yeah,
Matt.
just real quick, Patreon. Just special thanks to Nick Bodnar, who actually picked up one of the Outrider shirts.
Yay!
And then Tyson came in at a $10 pledge for Patreon.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah, the Imperial Outrider level. So thank you.
Yes. So, I think we're gonna have some news on T-shirts here shortly.
Yeah. We're basically waiting for the new Patreon to hit so we can invested in the new Barricada shirt.
But but we did a poll a couple weeks back about, do you want the single-sided or the double-sided Barricada shirts, and it was a somewhat close vote, but it looks like we're going to go to the double-sided.
It looks cool.
Yeah, it does. It's kind of neat. But what we're going to do here shortly, once we figure out when we're going to actually roll through with that, we're not going to ask anybody to commit any money up front. But we are going to kind of we'll put something up and we'll ask
if you
folks,
think you might want it. What size
do you want? That way we're not we don't run out of a certain size, or we don't order too many of a certain size. They got a bunch sitting around, so because they are rather pricey because they're double sided. So we need to make sure that we have accurate numbers on what we're doing here. So
that's possible.
But anyways, we'll have that have that shortly.
But otherwise, Nick, LJ, you guys are rock stars. Thanks so much for taking the time and talking with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad we could jump in.
And not only that, but congratulations, guys. I mean, making Worlds is no easy feat, and we're happy to live vicariously through you guys.
Yeah, I can't wait for the Obi-Wan Anakin face showdown that's going to be taking place between these guys, because they're absolutely playing each other first round.
Oh God, no!
Not again! Not again!
That'd be terrible.
You are my brother.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us, and for everybody else out there in Outrider Nation, he's Matt. I'm Josh.
Yay!
Thanks for joining us. See you next week, guys.
You've been listening to the Legion Outriders podcast, a member of the Radio Free Tatooine Network.
At the end, do you understand?
For more from the Outriders, make sure you like us on Twitter at Legion Outriders, subscribe to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Legion Outriders, and make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast. Thanks for listening.
You're all clear, kid. Now let's blow this thing and go home.